How do I skip the CFAT? What's an application fast pass? Is the Canadian Armed Forces relaxing entry requirements in order to boost recruitment? Today we are discussing the Expedited Application Trial and what it means for applicants to the Canadian Armed Forces. You may have seen ads in your social media feed for the application fast pass or to skip the aptitude test. Well, let's take a look at how the Expedited Application Trial works. First of all, this trial is for regular force applicants only. Reserve force applicants still need to write the CFAT, the Canadian Forces Aptitude Test. I am a reserve recruiter, so that's probably why seeing it in my social media feed was the same time I heard about it, just like everybody else. Second of all, everyone still needs to write the CFAT eventually. It will be done on basic military qualification rather than before enrollment as a part of the application process. However, the results of the CFAT will have no bearing on your career progression in the occupation that you applied for. The score won't matter. Please note that although points do not matter for entry into the Canadian Armed Forces under this pilot project, applicants should be aware of potential career considerations post-enrollment, such as in-service selection programs. Like if later on in your career you want to become an officer, if you want to change occupations, you should still prepare and care about doing well on the CFAT. Before we get into further details, let's talk about why the application process is changing. Let's hear from the current Canadian Minister of National Defence, the Honourable Bill Blair.
If what you have been doing for decades is no longer working for you, you can't just keep doing it. And over the past 3 years, more people have left than have entered. That is frankly, it's a death spiral for the Canadian Armed Forces. We cannot afford to continue on that pace. We've got to do something differently.
So you heard it from the Minister of National Defence. More people are leaving the Canadian Armed Forces than coming in. This is obviously an issue. This pilot project is one of the ways that the Canadian Armed Forces is addressing this issue and trying to get more people in the door. Brigadier General Krista Brody, the commander of the Military Personnel Generation Group who oversees military recruitment, had this to say.
60% of people who express initial interest in joining the CAF don't come in to do their CFAT.
Just have a read of the question here.
So as part of the trial to reverse dropout rates, the military has scrapped the test during the application process for almost 50 jobs. Recruits will only take it after they've joined up, and scores won't matter.
I think there will be more people comfortable to come in and put in the application without while skipping the test portion of things.
In that clip, neither of them said anything about the process being faster. It seems like the real reason is that the CFAT can be a deterrent for some. In the accompanying CBC print article, Brigadier General Brody added, "What we've come to appreciate is that the Canadian Forces Aptitude Test itself may be a barrier to processing." And when interviewed, Sergeant St. Jean said, "Some people simply don't like tests." There is evidence that the CFAT is a deterrent to many people in applying to the Canadian Armed Forces, or continuing with the application process once that they've applied. So they're getting rid of the test for some, but not all, which can be a little bit confusing. So we're going to take a look at forces.ca, we're going to break it down, and we're going to go into the details. What occupations are eligible? What are the other eligibility criteria? Who gets to skip the test? And how does it all work? All right, if you head to forces.ca and you browse through all the careers, what you're looking for is the box that says Expedited Application Trial. When they first announced this program, it said that it was in-demand occupations that are eligible for the trial, which is partially true. But as you can see, there are some occupations that are listed as in demand that are not eligible for that Expedited Application Trial. So that is the box that you're looking for. Also, if you go to the homepage and you click on Expedited Application Trial Learn More, which I will also link in the description, you will get a full list of all of the occupations that are eligible for the trial. You can make a note that sailor is on the list. That's the name of the occupation for the Naval Experience Program. So yes, Naval Experience Program applicants are eligible for the Expedited Application Trial to skip the CFAT. Okay, so the occupation that you're interested in is on the list. It's eligible for the trial. So let's take a look at the other suitability criteria. All right, first we have direct entry officers. This one is easy. If you have a bachelor's degree that meets the requirement for the officer position, you do not have to write the CFAT. This includes if you've completed an assessed equivalency to enroll as an officer. That means like if you have a degree from another country and you've gone through the equivalency process through an organization like World Education Services, WES, or IQAS, the International Qualifications Assessment Service, this is acceptable. Next up, we have an NCM, non-commissioned member, with any bachelor's degree or higher. So same thing, if you have a bachelor's degree, you're automatically good to go, and that includes assessed equivalency. Okay, next up is if you're applying as an NCM and you have an eligible college diploma. This one is a little tricky because how do you know which diplomas count? Where is this military occupation list? So I put a little bit of research into this and I found the answer. The list of approved college diplomas they're using is the same list as the NCM STEP program. So I'll link the NCM STEP program here. This is a pretty good idea because the list is available to the public. It's a pre-approved list of acceptable programs. And it's available on forces.ca, so you can look it up and you can very easily find if your diploma qualifies, or you can also just ask your recruiter. Next one, the ideal entry standard. So what does this mean? Every occupation has its own entry standard, which includes your education, which could include specific high school courses, a specific diploma, or a specific degree that are eligible, as well as in some cases, work experience or other requirements. The entry standard for each occupation will have a column for acceptable and a separate column for ideal. Most NCM occupations, the minimum or acceptable entry standard is high school grade 10, which including English and math, which is why this is what you'll always see in most of the advertising on the homepage at applynow.forces.ca. And in general, the ideal entry standards have a little bit more requirements than the acceptable or minimum entry standards. For example, one of the Naval Reserve occupations that is eligible for the expedited application trial is Naval Communicator. And the ideal entry standard for Naval Communicator is completed grade 12 rather than completed grade 10, and also includes a work requirement of a minimum of 3 months working in a field related to communications. So if you do not have a university degree or a college diploma, you are going to have to meet the ideal entry standard rather than the acceptable entry standard. I searched on my regular computer, not my work computer, to see if I could find a list publicly available online of all the entry standards, and I could not find one. So in order to find out if you meet the ideal entry standard for your selected occupation, you are going to have to contact your recruiter. There is one more way to skip the CFAT, completing the scored employment application form. This is new. So I did this myself in order to learn what it was all about. And this is how it works. If your recruiter says that you need to do the questionnaire to skip the CFAT, they will email you the link so that you can do it at home. You will need to know your service number in order to begin the questionnaire. So the recruiter should include it in that email with the link. But if they don't, just ask for it and they should be able to give it to you. It's generated when you apply online. It is an extremely in-depth questionnaire asking you questions about your education history, work history, skills, hobbies, fitness level, and more. It's more in-depth than the normal application history questions that we ask. My recommendation is to complete all the rest of your application forms with your work history and education history and everything before you start the questionnaire. And have it out in front of you while you do it, because you will only have 2 weeks to complete the scored employment application form questionnaire once you've received it and it's been activated. So you want to be prepared with all the information that you need to answer all the questions that it asks. So there you have it. That's how you skip the CFAT. It is a real program and it's happening now. And one more point before I get to your questions is that this is a trial pilot project and recommendations will be made soon as to whether the program should be extended or if it needs to be modified, or if it should cease. So if you really hate writing tests and you're interested in joining the CAF, now is the time to apply. Okay, I received some good questions. Thanks for sending them in, and let's get to it. First one is, someone asked me if they've already written the CFAT and did not meet the cutoff score, could they be eligible for this program? And the answer is yes. If you have written the CFAT once before and you meet all of the eligibility criteria, you are suitable for this trial and you can skip the CFAT. If you have written the CFAT twice already and you've been unsuccessful, you are not eligible for the program. So if you've only written the CFAT once, yes, you can be eligible for the expedited application trial if you meet all the other criteria. However, if you've done it twice, no, you are not eligible. Next question, what about occupations that are competitive? Great question. Some occupations are competitive, and the CFAT score is one of the criteria, just one of, there are many, but one of the criteria that we use to see who will get selected when there's limited positions. The answer that I found is that the occupations that were chosen for the expedited application trial are ones that are not competitive. They're in demand and there's lots of positions available, so this factor shouldn't really come into play. Somebody else asked about marine technician in particular, and I don't really have an answer for that. Marine technician is an in-demand occupation. We need marine technicians, so I'm not exactly sure why it's not included in the program. That one is above my pay grade. Bottom line is I still recommend studying for and preparing for the CFAT because of potential future career implications. You can check out my Pass the CFAT video for lots of tips and resources on how to be successful in the CFAT. But if this pilot project sounds good to you, if you don't like writing tests, it really is a good opportunity to skip the CFAT, hopefully expedite your application, and get your foot in the door. Good luck.